Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Lunch with Lisa. Today, every day, I am Lisa Warner. I am the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing. I'm a teacher of multidimensional biology. I am a guide to higher dimensional consciousness, and I help my clients create happy, healthy lives for themselves by bringing all of themselves back into alignment and balance. So today I wanted to talk about multidimensional biology. We are multidimensional beings with multidimensional bodies. And when we are looking only at the physical body, we are only seeing part of the story. So it's time to start looking at the rest of the story because all of the eyes of the world are on our physical bodies right now and our physical circumstances. But we are body, mind, and soul. So the body is the physical part. The mind and the soul are non-physical. So the physical body is like the hardware, it's like the computer hardware. And the software is the mind and the soul. The mind and the soul are programmable. And what happens in the non-physical shows up in the physical body. The non-physical bodies are connected to the physical body in very specific patterns, very specific ways. Most people really don't look at the non-physical at all. Most people have heard of the chakras or the meridians and, maybe the light body, but we're not really seeing how all of these things are truly connected together. So our bodies are surrounded by an auric field, an energy field. And that energy field houses different layers of energy, and each different layer plays a specific role. We have an etheric body, a kind of a doppelganger to the physical body. Um, it's the energy body that is most closely associated with the physical body. Then we have an emotional body. Yes, our emotions are out here, outside of our body. We have a mental body. We have a causal body. We have a crisis body. We have all kinds of layers of bodies, and they all form specific different functions. And our bodies, in our physical body, we have 2 strands of physical DNA. However, we also have 10 other strands of non-physical DNA. That non-physical DNA communicates directly with the physical strands of DNA. So the software is connected to the hardware, the body, by the DNA. And just like any computer program, there's a specific pattern that's at work. When you sit down to your computer and you want to check your email, you hit specific buttons on your keyboard and boom, then your email pops up on your hardware on the screen. And then when you're working in a computer program, the program says, well, if this happens, then do this. Well, the same thing happens in our physical body. The physical body is programmed in a fight or flight response pattern. And it's an extremely exact program, which says, if this emotional fight or flight trigger happens, then body, do this. It's extremely exact science. So we as human beings are multi-dimensional beings. We live in multiple dimensions at one time. What's a dimension? A dimension is a layer of consciousness. It is the consciousness um, is in different layers, different concentric circles. For each consecutive layer, it gets bigger and bigger. So consciousness expands. The human collective consciousness has been existing in the third dimensional matrix. And what does that mean? The third dimension is a confined space. It has specific rules of how it works. We are leaving the collective consciousness of the planet is leaving the third dimensional matrix, and we are moving up into the fifth dimensional bandwidth. So a couple of different things are going on our planet right now. We are in the midst of a epic shift of consciousness. We are all leaving that third dimension. Now, inside that third dimension, the third dimension is a fallen dimension. It's like, if you think about a souffle, like normally a souffle is big and tall and it's light and airy and has a consistent consistency, right? You get it anyway, right? So, but when a souffle falls, it gets all smashed and compact and dense and lumpy. Well, that's like the third dimension. It is full of distortion. The third dimension, there is nothing that is in balance inside the third dimension. There is nothing that is unconditional inside the third dimension. Everything inside the third dimension is distorted. It's like going into a fun house where, like, when all the mirrors are wobbly and wavy, and you go in and you look in the fun house, and on one mirror you're like tall and skinny and wavy, and then in another mirror you're like short and fat and little teeny head, little tiny feet and great big body, right? The walking through the third dimension is like that. Nothing is as it appears inside the third dimension. I like to refer to it as everything is backwards. Everything appears to be exactly the opposite of what it actually is. Inside the third dimension, we have fear, we have doubt, guilt, shame, blame, anger, all of the negative stuff. Okay, it's a dimension about polarity. All of the negative poles are inside that third dimension. Outside the third dimension, when we get into the fourth and lower fifth dimensions, we have ease, freedom, joy, harmony, balance, unity. Inside the third dimension, we have separation. Outside, we have unity. Inside the third dimension, we have strife, we have fighting, we have all kinds of discord. Outside of the third dimension, there is peace, there is harmony, there is ease. Outside of that third dimension, we live in harmony with our bodies. We live in harmony with nature, the body of the earth that supports all of our individual bodies. So what's going on our planet right now is the shift of consciousness. And as we shift this consciousness, we have to become aware of our multidimensionality. We have to become aware of how our bodies actually function. Because inside the third dimension, our bodies function it appears that our bodies function very differently than how they actually function. So inside the third dimension, because we are operating on a pattern of separation, we feel like we are the body. We feel like we are small. We feel like the world is big and scary. It feels like we have to constantly protect ourselves. And we're always fighting against something, like we're trying to protect ourselves, and that just engenders a fighting response. So in our bodies, we're always fighting diseases or viruses. And that's the way it works inside the third dimension. However, when we move outside, when we expand our awareness out to the fifth dimension, and we start looking at the actual programming that's happening, when we start to see the multidimensionality of our bodies, and we start to look at the non-physical stuff, how our thoughts and our emotions, non-physical stuff, we have thoughts and emotions from this lifetime, but we also, in our causal body, the causal body is outside of our physical body, it's in our energy field, and that causal body holds, it's like our personal akash. It holds the records of our soul's journeys through physical lifetimes. So when our soul in other lifetimes, if we have not resolved an issue in a previous lifetime, if we haven't healed a wound in a previous lifetime, that wound is still active in that causal body. So that these, any wounds that we have, any emotional scars that we have are literally like scars or scabs on our body. They're like a scab. So the scab is in the process of healing, but it has not yet fully healed. Any wounds that we are carrying are like these scabs. So anytime that wound gets pricked, that scab, it's like picking the scab. So it picks that scab open and we start bleeding again. So things trigger us all the time. So when something triggers us, it triggers us in our mind. The mental and emotional bodies get triggered by something. So that's the non-physical. So these non-physical strands of DNA start digging and they go, danger, danger, Will Robinson. The scab just got picked. We got to protect ourselves. So that in our bodies, it feels like fear, it feels like guilt, it feels like doubt, it feels like shame, it feels like blame, feels like all of these different bad feelings that we have in our bodies. And for every specific type of bad feeling that we have, there is a specific fight or flight program that is connected to the hardware. So the non-physical strands of DNA then tell the two physical strands what to do. So every single thing that appears in our physical body is appearing there as part of a program. It is actually whatever is going on in our body is coming from within. Inside the third dimension, we assume that stuff is coming from the outside to attack. However, because inside the third dimension, we're only looking at the physical body. When you look only at the physical body, you start looking at the cells underneath the microscope to try to find the origin point of what's going on. We're looking for a source of the discomfort. So when something weird's going on in our body, we go, uh-oh, what's wrong with me? And then we try to look for a physical source of the problem. However, the source is actually coming from the non-physical. So the non-physical is telling the physical what to do. Now, seems to make absolutely no sense, right? Because why would we get sick? Why would our bodies do these things that our bodies do? Why would they grow a bit? Why would they grow a lump? Why would they start having rash? Why would the skin start having a rash for no apparent reason? Why would I start losing my hair for no apparent reason? Why this? Why that? Well, every single one of those whys has a specific non-physical trigger point. We have an emotional reaction to something. For instance, when we fear that we're going to be attacked by something, our lungs start to build up extra cells. As humans, we don't know that. We don't notice that when it's happening because there's really no there are no physical symptoms when that's happening. But when we're fearful that we might be attacked, the lungs are the organ that starts to respond to that particular threat. And why would that be? Well, let's go back to the caveman times. If the caveman sees the saber-toothed tiger, it's like, uh-oh, danger, danger, Will Robinson. I could die. If this tiger attacks me, I could die. So the body responds by building up extra cells in the lungs so that the caveman has more oxygen available to run or fight and save his life. So it's a very, it's a brilliant program that is set up, this fight or flight response. It is designed to keep us alive. Every single thing our body is doing it's doing it actually to try to keep us alive. So, but we don't understand because we don't understand the correlation between the non-physical and the physical. When the body goes into healing, okay, when the saber-toothed tiger is gone, when the fear is gone, when the threat is over, the body has now built up a bunch of extra cells. But now, when the fight or flight response is deactivated, it's like, phew, all right, we're good to go. Now the body, say, just for ease of numbers, say the body normally has 1,000,000 lung cells. Well, now it's built up and now it has 1,100,000 lung cells, let's say. So now it's got like an extra 100,000 lung cells. What's it going to do with them? Well, it's going to get rid of them because it doesn't need them anymore. So how does it do that? It does that by coughing them out. We have congestion. We have all different kinds of things. We have respiratory symptoms. So if we're only looking at the physical and we're only looking at the physical symptoms, we try to blame something for the symptoms because there's got to be some cause of the symptoms. And the cause, we assume, must be something physical. So we look at the cells and we see the genes are different, or we see there are bacteria or viruses, and we go, ah, that must be the problem. That's the culprit. That's the deal. But what we're not seeing is that the body is now actually in healing. The uncomfortable signs in our body are actually the signs that the body is now rebuilding itself. It is now in the process of returning itself to stasis, to balance. But because we haven't seen any of the first part of the process, we simply assume, and it's a completely logical assumption, right? That we assume there's something wrong with our bodies. But what we haven't seen is the entire non-physical setup. We haven't been aware of the software that is running the hardware. We haven't been aware of the programming. So what's happening right now is the programming is up to be seen. There are people that have seen this programming. This is not me just making stuff up. Okay? There's actual science, fully clinically researched biology, the new biology that just simply has not yet hit the mainstream. They're called the 5 biological laws that were discovered by a German doctor named Dr. Rike Gerd Hammer back in the 1980s. And his work has never been mainstream for whatever reason. But now there are people that do practice German new medicine. And it is a very specific science, and it shows the programming of how the non-physical is connected to the physical. and how that programming intersects, and how when when the scab gets picked, how the body responds to that. So as humanity is shifting from the third dimension, leaving that old matrix behind, leaving all of the distorted views behind, we're now being asked to see from a broader perspective. So this is, not many people are talking about this. So you don't see this on the mainstream right now, but this is what has to happen in order for us to transcend that 3D matrix and move into unity consciousness of the new earth, of the fifth dimension and beyond, where we live in harmony and peace and ease with each other and with our bodies. It's time to end the wars with each other, our bodies, and the earth. So when we start to recognize that we are multidimensional beings with multidimensional bodies, we will start to see the bigger picture, and we will move much more rapidly into these higher dimensions. And we will move there with much, much greater ease, because we will be able to see and trust our bodies. We will see how the programs work, and we will start trusting our bodies, because you know what? Our bodies are designed to heal themselves. The hardware, it is built right into the hardware, that the hardware responds and it is designed to heal itself. It's completely obvious when you see a broken bone mends itself, cut skin seals itself back up. We don't have to do anything to that other than provide the proper environment. The body does it all by itself. It is designed to do that every single time. But we have to learn how to trust our bodies, and we have to learn how to stop fighting enemies of our bodies. It is not cancer and viruses and diseases that we need to focus on. We need to start focusing on how the body is programmed to respond. We have to see the non-physical and the physical together so we can see the entire picture. So I hope that was helpful. If there's anything I can do to help you understand your body better, please reach out to me. I help my clients with this all the time. So thank you for joining me today. My name is Lisa Warner. I am the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing, and you can find me at connectingyoutoyou.com. Thanks for watching today. Until next time, create for yourselves a great week. Bye for now.